What can we do to fight back against big pharma and the compromised medical industry? We can become healthy and break free from the perpetual cycle of being poisoned by criminal organizations like most pharmaceutical companies. Come check out what may be the most powerful antioxidant known to man, C60 PurplePower. The benefits of C60 have been personally outstanding. I use it every day and I feel incredible. I have tons of energy, I sleep great, and I haven't even come down with a cold since I started using C60 over 2 years ago. You can even get C60 for your pets. Do your own research, click the link in the description, and check out their website. If you order from that link or use coupon code KNOWLEDGE10, you get 10% off your order plus free shipping. What is your health worth to you? Welcome back to Forbidden Knowledge News. I'm your host, Chris Matthew. Today my guest is Merkabah 13. First, I have a couple of announcements. You can now get Forbidden Knowledge News live 5 days a week on Rokfin, Rumble, and our website. You can also download your limited edition version of Episode 1 of the Forbidden documentary series from our website or by clicking that link in the description. Our website is forbiddenknowledge.news. This is also the home of the Forbidden Knowledge Network. We feature some amazing podcasts there, and you can always get every new episode of Forbidden Knowledge News on Rokfin, Rumble, and all podcast platforms. Be sure to sign up on Rokfin. This is where you get our premium content. You also get all the premium content from every creator on Rokfin. Just go to rokfin.com/FKN Plus or use that link right in the description. Today I want to welcome Merkabah 13. He is an artist and influencer from Atlanta, Georgia, with over 500,000 followers across platforms. He is one of the most impactful creators that is creating positive change in our world. Merkabah, welcome. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, man. How about you?
I can't complain. It's a great day. And today we're going to be discussing one of my favorite topics, using the power of your mind to heal yourself and create your reality.
Yes, sir.
Now, the results that I have personally seen on a daily basis using simple techniques and modalities that I've picked up over the years have been incredible.
Right.
And you've been implementing and sharing many of these techniques with amazing results, which we're going to get into today, from meditation and breathing to manifestation, sexual alchemy, and reprogramming the subconscious. We've got a lot to talk about. Before we do this is your first time on, man. Tell us a little bit more about your background, yourself, and what led you down your path.
Oh, yeah, right. Well, yeah, man. My name is Merkabah 13. I'm from Atlanta, Georgia. I really originally started off as an artist. Like, that was my first entry into pretty much everything spiritual, because to me, music and art is like one of the major gateways to spirituality. So I was always into creativity and was always just into different things. So that kind of just led me to kind of being into more of like sci-fi, and that led me to, one thing led to another. And so even as like I was super young, like 8 or 9 years old, I remember going on the internet and looking up like, how can I become psychic? How can I learn how to move things with my mind? Because I was seeing these things and everyone was telling me, man, that's not real. None of that is real. But just in my heart and mind, even as a young kid, I always felt like, all of this was real. So, I was just always kind of like a weird kid. Like, I didn't really fit in with a lot of people, but I always was just my own person. And just over the years, it just led me to just, start researching about, just different techniques like meditation, learning about astral traveling and lucid dreaming, and getting into, extraterrestrial information and the Anunnaki. And, it's like all of these things kind of just started to tie into each other. And once you start to see like the similarities between everything, like even with like certain religious texts, like, because I came up in a religious background, and as I got older, I started to question things. And, I just always wondered, like, why are they telling me this? But it's certain inconsistencies that I'm seeing. And when I started researching more ancient stuff, it's kind of contradicting certain things. So it's just curiosity. Like I was just always a curious person. And I think that just led me to want to, just know and just, gain more knowledge. So, that just led me to, discovering certain things. And then, I had an extraterrestrial experience myself when I was about 18, which, we can get into that later. But that kind of just like really opened the door for me. So now I'm like, man, I got to really understand what's going on. So that just led me to become like an avid researcher. And, once I put in the years of studying this stuff, then I became the practitioner and started really applying it. And once I saw the results in my life, my first natural instinct was to tell other people so, I could help them. And so, I started putting out videos on social media, and, just over time, my account really blew up. And, it kind of just led me to this point now to where, doing speaking engagements, working with people like, Billy Carson and, people like Jimmy Church and all of these different people that's, really kind of, created platforms so that people can speak about this type of knowledge. And, just all of that kind of just led me to where I'm at today. And, it's just been an incredible journey. So that's kind of my background.
I love it. I love it. And like you said, I experience myself, the more you go seeking, the more the universe tends to give you some answers and show you what you're looking for, as long as you have these pure intentions behind it.
Right.
And I've had a very similar journey myself, and I would love to hear some of the experiences you've had before we get into meditation and things like that, such as your extraterrestrial experience.
Oh yeah, dope. Yeah, definitely. Well, basically, when I was about 18 years old, it's like a park that I used to go to pretty much every day. And, down here where I'm at in Atlanta, Georgia, like, it's just a lot of spiritual energy. Like out of a lot of places I've traveled to, it's like I've ran into the most conscious people while I was here. It just seemed like it's just something in the atmosphere. And, people always say Atlanta is really Atlantis, all this different stuff. But I used to go to this park like every day. And this is when I first started getting into meditation. So I would go there and meditate every day. And one night I was with like two or three of my friends, and it was probably like midnight. It was a full moon. And really looking back on it, it probably was some crazy astrological alignments that we just wasn't aware of. But we was just sitting out at the park, and we was like, we had made like a little campfire. And for some reason we was like, yo, whatever is on your heart, just speak it, into the flame. So we was all just, putting out our intentions and things we wanted to manifest. And one of my homies just asked a question. He was like, yo, if a portal opened up right here in front of us at this lake, would y'all jump in it? And we all said yes. And literally like 5 minutes later, bro, a bright ass light, like literally consumed like everything around us. Like I couldn't even see beyond this light. And what was crazy about it was I could feel just like a lot of electricity, like electrical energy. And it's like I was frozen in time. And it's like I couldn't move. I couldn't really like do anything. I was just in this moment. And in the distance, I could see like of like a tall, kind of like almost like a humanoid type being, but it wasn't really human. It almost kind of looked like, something like you would describe as an angel. I could just see it in the distance. And then the light disappeared. Me and my friends, we all looked at each other and we just ran. We just took off running because that moment was so surreal and powerful that we just couldn't logically explain it. So we all run. And when I got back to my house, I called my homies. I was like, yo, did y'all see that? And we all confirmed that, we saw something and we felt something. So after that, like the next 3 days, I had like a real bad migraine headache. But I started getting like a lot of downloads. I started like seeing certain things. And this led to me kind of like just researching and realizing that, I had like a pineal gland activation, and me being able to see that being, that was me like, developing the clairvoyance to be able to kind of see beyond this reality. And what was crazy is after that, it's like all of my senses just got sharper. It's like I could see better, my hearing was better. And it's like I said, I made music. It's like after that, I could just like literally play up and down the piano with ease. It's like my DNA got upgraded that night. And ever since then, it's just like I started getting all these channels. I started like getting information, and I'm writing stuff down, I'm researching and cross-referencing. And it was crazy because I was getting information about things that I hadn't even researched yet. So that's how I knew that I was actually like tapping into something. And it's just like over time, I just learned how to kind of harness that energy better. But that was like my gateway experience to really understanding that, like, yo, there's something beyond this world that can influence us, and that can kind of like, help us see things that most people really can't see. So that was me going into the rabbit hole. That was my Alice in Wonderland moment, to where, nothing was the same after that. And
I love it, man. And I have such a similar story when it comes to my spiritual awakening experiences. It was through meditative experiences. I made contact with what I now understand as my higher self, was given multitudes of information on how to proceed, how to become successful in what I'm doing with this show. And it led me towards my path, and I owe everything to that one experience and the plenty of experiences that followed, because I was seeking more and more. But it's fascinating how that happens when people have these pure intentions and they have this incredible paranormal or extraterrestrial or supernatural experience that affects them in a way so positively that it propels them. And this happens more often than people are having these supernatural experiences that are terrifying them and sending them down the wrong path, right?
Definitely.
Yeah, it seems like it's more of a positive experience all around. And I want to get your insights into not only what's happening with some of those experiences and people that are seeking, but the nature of reality in general. Based on everything you've experienced, all that you understand, what do you think is the purpose for us being here? There's plenty of different schools of thought. Some believe we may have created this reality for ourselves to experience, grow, and learn.
Yeah.
Others believe that same thing, but possibly it may have been hijacked by a malevolent force. That's why we have these negative overlays that we deal with on a daily basis. But what are your insights into that? What do you think?
I really honestly think it's a little bit of both. I feel like, the collective consciousness is really what created this, because the way I look at it, it's like everything is evolution. So basically, it's like, if we understand that we're really spiritual beings, and we came into these human bodies to have a human experience, but the purpose of that was for us to like gain more understanding of consciousness and gain more understanding of what we are. So that's kind of how I look at it. I just think like everything is about evolution. And it's like, we come here, we learn things, and this helps us evolve, like even on a soul level, because all of the experiences and all the energy, even all of the negative things, all the pain and the trauma, like it's still energy, and it still, adds to your soul experience and your soul journey overall. So that's kind of how I look at it. I feel like we come here, and through doing the work, through becoming spiritually enlightened, we're able to merge back with the one or the source. Now I will say that I do believe that there are malevolent forces in the universe, just as far as like, we understand duality. So it's always going to be like a contrast. It's always going to be like an equal reaction, to the energy. So as positive, as you may be, it'll still be negative forces. And it's kind of up to you to be able to navigate and, balance out everything. So I definitely feel like there's a malevolent force, but I don't like necessarily look at it as evil. I look at it as it's kind of testing you to become stronger. Like, at least on this plane, it's like a lot of times, it's like when you working out, you lift heavier and heavier weights as you get stronger. So it's like, you have to kind of go through things in order to even know how strong you are. So, I kind of do believe in like kind of like the Anunnaki type theory, where it seems as though like, something occurred on the planet to where like something did alter the human DNA, for positive or negative reasons. Like, because to me, I believe in, reincarnation. And I feel like, when we came into this realm, it was for us to learn certain things. And, certain people either didn't learn or they got too attached to this reality. And this is what kind of created the reincarnation cycles. And, some people will even say that it's like certain archons or certain entities that kind of want to keep humanity at a lower level so that they can feed off of the energy that, humans, put out. So I think it's like a combination of both of those things. I do think that there are, forces or spirits or entities that, want to kind of keep humans at a lower level. But, there's also a force that wants humans to evolve. So that's kind of how I look at it. I think, I'm not the type of person that just like thinks like, yo, this one path or this one philosophy or school of thought is the truth. I think it's different timelines and different realities all playing out at once. So depending on like where you're at, like we could be on two different timelines, like just based on your reality and things you've experienced. Even like on the past life level, it's like, we really don't know how old the earth is. Some people say it's billions of years old. Some people say it's so many thousands, but ultimately I think it's even different versions of the earth. So yeah, I just think everything is true in its own relative reality. So yeah, that's kind of how I look at it.
Right on. I think that a lot of what we experience as paranormal activity or even extraterrestrial contact is part of a learning and growing experience for us, especially if it is a spiritual energy that is trying to help us learn something, but the only way that it will be able to perceive it is as something that we understand. It seems like it could appear as anything, but if we understand the message better as a gray extraterrestrial or as some kind of angelic being, that could be possibly what these energies appear as. And that's what I consider often, that these aren't necessarily just these little beings that are coming from different planets, but may be surrounding us at all times, just outside of the spectrum of our vision. What do you think about that?
No, I agree with that. Like, I actually made a video about that. I said, it's spiritual entities always around you. Like a lot of people talk about, how you got spirit guides, how you have, ancestors. And, I believe in that, like I'm definitely in tune with my guides, because it's been so many times, like, especially like kind of growing up in the environment that I grew up in, like, it's a lot of crime, a lot of gang activity. It's a lot of, weird stuff going on. And it's like, it's so many times where I would just hear a voice, I might be at the basketball court. I would hear a voice like, yo, you need to leave, like go home. Like, and, at first I would kind of question it, but then it's like, anytime I would question that inner voice, something bad would happen. So I just learned to kind of start trusting it. And it's like, it's been so many times I got that premonition. I would leave the basketball court, then boom, somebody got shot, like literally right after I left. So, to me, that's a form of, of a guide or a spiritual entity that's around you, that's kind of like, giving you this information. And then, like I say, like once you really look at it from a metaphysical level, everything is connected. So it's not really that it's like another being like that's really outside of you. It's really just another aspect of yourself. So that's kind of how I look at it too. It's like a lot of times we look at these beings as something that's separate from us, but really, it's aspects of us. And, once we learn how to kind of integrate and raise our level of awareness and consciousness, we actually start to see that, we can, even, because basically I'm kind of like going ahead of myself, but you can leave your body, basically. So if you can leave your body and you can expand your awareness beyond just your physical body, then that proves that, that you could be connected to all of these different things and, all of these star systems. So, it's really just about expanding your consciousness beyond just, who you think you are and, your name, your religion, your race, where you from, like all of these things. We think that's who we are, but we're really so much more. We really are the universe experiencing itself through us. So
I love it, man. That's a great answer. Now let's get into some of the modalities that you're utilizing: meditation, breath work,
right,
brainwave entrainment, visualization, manifestation. I've used a lot of these methods myself,
right,
along with the implementation of different plant medicines, psychedelics at times.
Oh yeah.
Implementation of different frequencies. There's so many different things that you can do to explore consciousness other than just sitting there, because I know a lot of people have trouble just meditating, like myself. I have to implement different other methods along with it to have much success.
Right.
But let's talk about some of the modalities that you're using.
Right. Yeah, I mean, the thing about meditation that a lot of people get wrong is that they think that meditating means you have to just sit there and close your eyes and, just be, not doing anything. But that's just one form of meditation. Like you can be meditating while you're working out. You can be meditating while you're writing or creating art. Like that's one of my favorite ways to meditate, because really meditation is just you being able to focus your mind on a singular activity or a singular goal or a singular thing, and you learning to kind of train your mind to focus in. So a lot of times people meditate without even realize it. Like if you driving on the highway for a long time, you'll eventually kind of go into a zone or a meditative state to where it's just like everything is kind of on autopilot. And so that's really what meditation is. It's like it's so many techniques and it's so many different ways, but there's really no one way to meditate. And really a lot of people do it without realizing it. And so it's a multi-dimensional practice, but I like to tell people to start off with meditation first, because the art of discovering your own mind, I just feel like it's really priceless. Like, and it's so valuable because a lot of people don't understand how thoughts create reality. They don't understand how your thoughts actually send out an electrical impulse, and that electrical impulse has like magnetism, behind it, and your thoughts and your emotions together is basically like an electrical charge and, a magnetic pull. So basically, based upon those two things, this kind of sets the tone for what you will experience in life and the different things that you can manifest. So I definitely recommend people to start off with that, because, it's important to just ground yourself in, a positive energy. Like if you just out here kind of just going through the world, it's like you may not really understand why you feel certain negative emotions sometimes. Sometimes it's not even coming from you, because, you got all of the people's thoughts going around and you interfacing with certain people, you go in certain places. And so you can pick up on these energies like on an astral level to where, you don't realize that you may be actually picking up on somebody else's thoughts just because you haven't really meditated and learned how to kind of, ground yourself in you and just learn to quiet the mind, because a lot of people live in a state where it's just a constant stream of thoughts. And, I tell people that, that inner voice that you hear in your head, that is kind of like, that kind of sets the energetic tone for your life too. Like, I always say you have to change that inner monologue, because a lot of people have a negative self-talk constantly going on. So anytime they try to do something, they can't really shake that negative voice in their head. It's like, no, you can't really do it. Like, who do you think you are? And all these negative thoughts. And by meditating, you can actually start to gain more control over that. So that's like one modality that, I would recommend people to do. And then, breath work is something that it took me a while to really see the relevance and the importance of it. But once I really understood that, it's like, you can go a few days without eating food. You can go a few days without, drinking water. But how long can you go without breathing? And so when we and really when we talking about spirit, you really talking about, breath and air, because, it's the ether. It's like you can't see it, but it's always there. And that's what literally gives the energy to us. Like the first, like at the first level, it's like without air, without breathing, you really don't have anything. So once you get into conscious breathing and you combine that with meditation and visualization, you can really start to rejuvenate your cells, because a lot of people don't understand that, when you breathe deeply and breathe into your diaphragm instead of just breathing, shallow at the chest level, when you breathe deeply, it literally, puts more oxygen into all of your organs. So just doing this alone can help, alleviate certain type of diseases or certain things you may go through, just from breathing, because a lot of people never really breathe deeply. They just strictly breathe, through the mouth, and they don't understand that, you take a deep breath, you can actually, with your mind, you can visualize energy coming into your body, and, you can heal yourself with that. And, even personally, like what really helped me go to the next level with that is that, I was paralyzed for like 2.5 years. I was in a wheelchair.
Wow.
I got shot directly in my spine, and, it like basically I had like, a couple like broken vertebrae. And so, yeah, I was paralyzed for about 2.5 years. And through deep meditation, through deep visualization, through breath work, I was able to heal myself. Because, the doctors told me that I would never walk again. Like, based on how severe my energy was, they was like, man, it's no way. Like, basically, you're going to be in a wheelchair forever. We're going to give you this surgery, and that's pretty much it. But like I say, like I always been the type of person to not really just conform to reality. So in my mind, I'm like, man, it's no way that I'm not going to walk again. Like, I just refuse to accept that reality. And, a lot of time these doctors and people, man, like they really subconsciously be casting spells on people.
Yeah, man.
You know what I'm saying? Like, how
medical
can
hexing?
Man, exactly. It's a real thing. Like, because if someone tells you, hey, look, you got this uncurable disease and you're going to die in 6 months. If you actually internalize that and believe that, it's probably going to become true. But if you within yourself say, nah, bro, I refuse to accept that. And, I'm going to take responsibility for my own life and create, the conditions for my body to heal, then you can kind of like, counteract that, and you can bypass that, because it's all a program. And, I'm not saying that, every doctor is being malicious when they say things like that, but it's like, a lot of times they just unconsciously do it because that's how they've been trained.
They're programmed.
So, exactly. Like they programmed, and it's like they see this information, they say, hey, this is what it is, and they tell you that. And it's also a monetary incentive for them to, keep you sick and to keep you, they don't really make money to heal you. They really make money to just, alleviate your symptoms a little bit, just to keep you coming back. So, but yeah, going through that really taught me a lot. And it's just like, just really, not accepting what, the 3D reality is trying to kind of push onto you. And once you kind of elevate to a higher level and, look at yourself from outside of yourself, you can kind of start to gain more, perspective on your life. And so, yeah, meditation, breath work, and visualization.
So were you able to completely heal?
Oh, yeah, I'm walking now.
That's incredible, man. Incredible.
Yeah, man. Appreciate that. It's like, I'm walking now. I mean, I still have like, some pain and like, it's certain things that still kind of like, ailing me a little bit. But yeah, for the most part, I'm pretty much healed. And it's like, what's crazy is, I actually went back to the same hospital because I wanted to actually talk to the doctor, because I'm like, man, this could be some good medical research. And literally when I went there, the staff and nurse, she was like, oh yeah, he quit. He no longer works at this facility. So I just feel like that was just so, like just telling that, it's like I was able to beat the odds, and kind of go against everything that they medical research said. And that same doctor who told me that, he basically had to quit. And so, yeah, that was a crazy experience. And that's kind of like, going into like the subconscious mind, that was like some deep shadow work that I had to do, because basically that whole time that I was paralyzed, like, I mean, really the only thing I could do was, tap into the mind and go deeper into my own psyche, into my own soul. And so I realized that, I had a lot of unresolved trauma. I had a lot of grudges that I was still holding on to. I had a lot of things that, I didn't realize, but, it was actually, causing me pain because I wasn't able to resolve these things. So, just over time, just like really like going super deep into meditation, because, the thing about it is the hardest part for people is, they get attached to their thoughts. And the key to meditation is, even when you have thoughts, you just don't attach to them. You just let them pass through you. And eventually, if you can hold that kind of state of just like not thinking, you'll actually start to like awaken, more senses. So you'll start to like really feel your heartbeat more. You can feel the energy pulsing through your body. And once you get to that point, now you can actually start like going to the next level, and you can actually start like, visualizing things that you want to see. Or if you wanted to, you could leave the body. But it's hard for people to break that barrier of like, the first layer of consciousness, because, even on a scientific level, what you're really doing when you meditate is that you altering your brain waves, because you got like the beta brainwave state, you got the gamma, the alpha, the theta, and all of these different brainwave states correspond to a certain level of consciousness. So right now, we are like in the beta brainwave state, because this is the brainwave state that's, when you're in a waking state, like your normal everyday, state of consciousness. But there's like lower levels where, when you do activities that relax you, now you get into the alpha wave state. And this is when your subconscious mind becomes a little bit more suggestible. Like, one thing that I'm into as well is like, hypnotherapy. Even though you want to do it with someone that you trust, you don't really just want anybody to kind of have the access. Then you can also hypnotize yourself. But, really what you're doing is, the first thing they tell you to do is like, you got to completely relax. Because, if you don't fully relax and fully, open up, open up your subconscious, you won't be able to go very deep. So when you go to sleep and you dream, the reason that you can do that is because, you're functioning at that certain brainwave state. And so as you get sleepy, the cycles slow down, because, they basically measure in like hertz frequencies. So, once you slow that brainwave state down, now you can perceive different states of consciousness. So even like you said with psychedelics, that's kind of what psychedelics do. It alters your brain waves so that you perceive things differently. And you can do this naturally with meditation and breath work. You can get psychedelic type experiences or effects, just through that. And so, once you like get to these, lower, brainwave states, you get closer and closer to the subconscious. And, the subconscious is really what runs our life, because these are the deepest, most innermost beliefs that, really shape how we view the world. So, for example, if like, you grow up in like a very, very strict household, where it's like a lot of rules, and it's like, you're not allowed to do certain things, you're going to have like a different subconscious, mind than somebody that didn't have that. And it's like your experiences kind of shape that. So a lot of people have like these limiting beliefs within their subconscious. They have like a lot of things that they're not aware of, but it's affecting them. Because a lot of times when we do have traumatic experiences, we kind of just block them out, and we kind of just try to forget about it. And we don't understand that, that trauma is affecting us. Like, I see this a lot, like with dating, like if a man or a woman, if you have like 4 bad experiences with, a boyfriend or a girlfriend, it's easy to just say, yo, all men are trash, or like all women are this. And you're only saying that because of trauma. And it's like, bro, it's billions of people in the world. So how can you say that a whole gender is bad because of your limited experiences? But that's what trauma does. And so now your whole worldview is shaped to think, oh yeah, men are this or women are this. So guess what? you're going to keep attracting that because that's your deep subconscious belief. And until you change that, you'll never really change what you manifest. And that applies to everything. It's like a lot of people have this mentality, like, and a lot of people come at me for this. And I say, man, look, conspiracy theories are interesting. It's fun to watch, but some people get so caught up in it that they really end up feeding their energy to the thing that they think they're against.
Right.
And it's like a lot of people have this subconscious belief to where they don't think that they can progress in life because the system is holding them back, or the government, or these different groups. And it's like, it may be true on some level, but at the same time, it's so many people that's highly successful despite all of that, to where it's like, you're creating that reality by constantly feeding into it. And you know how the social media algorithm works. Once you watch one conspiracy theory, they're going to keep showing them to you, and you get into this deep rabbit hole. And I've seen people where it's like they're just constantly in a state of being anxious, being paranoid, feeling like they're being watched and all of this stuff. And it's like, man, it can really put you into a downward spiral. And this is all dealing with the subconscious mind. It's like you have to change, who you are on a core level. And, it's not easy to do. It takes time, it takes effort, and you have to want to do it. And, a lot of people, they don't really see the importance in things that's not physically, immediately tangible. And they don't understand that a lot of times it's the unseen, it's the things that we're not aware of that's really affecting us. And, these sciences, the meditation, all of these things is about looking within yourself, and finding the triggers that you have, finding the patterns that you have, because a lot of people don't even realize that they have like a pattern to everything that they do in life. Like, especially how the system is, it kind of programs you to do the same thing every day. And, a lot of times that kind of keeps us like stagnant, keeps us in a loop. So sometimes you kind of have to break out of your routine. You might have to like leave your hometown to where you grew up at. You might have to like start, meeting new people, going to events, just to kind of change, the frequency of, your pattern. So it's a lot of things, but it all kind of goes into changing who you are on an inner level. So that's really the focus of all of these practices.
I love it, man. Now, I want to go back to something you were talking about a few minutes ago, how we can pick up on other people's emotions and energies and sometimes even thoughts, and we wouldn't realize it. What are some techniques that you use that maybe others could use to become more aware that this is happening, maybe become more aware of their own thoughts and feelings versus other ones?
Right. Yeah, like it's definitely a practice of self-awareness. So the first thing you have to do is like you have to become more aware of yourself on that inner level, because like I say, it's like different layers of consciousness. Like, just like a lot of people you may meet in the world, people, it's a term, it's kind of funny, people call them like NPCs, to where it's like, certain people, it's like they kind of just exist on the surface level. They don't really go deep into anything because, honestly, the deeper you get, the darker it gets a lot of times. And so a lot of people kind of fear, going too deep into things because, and I will say this, some people don't always make it out in one piece. And this is where some people do need like a guru or, a teacher to kind of help them navigate through this stuff. But yeah, it's like you have to become aware of yourself on that level to even know that it's happening, because, and it's kind of basic too. It's like, I mean, if you hang around people that's negative all the time,
right,
you're gonna kind of become that. So you have to just really be conscious of like what you're allowing into your mind. And a lot of people don't know, like a lot of the music we listen to, a lot of like, the things people watch, the things people consume, the food that people eat, like all of these things can kind of affect you on a subtle level. And so, you really just have to first analyze your own thoughts and your own feelings on a day-to-day basis. And once you kind of see like, okay, I'm feeling kind of off, then you have to see like what caused that. Like, am I feeling off when I go around, these groups of people when I go to this certain area? And am I feeling these thoughts because, you know, I ate something? Am I feeling these thoughts because, you know, I'm watching all these conspiracy theory videos that's telling me that I'm gonna be a slave and the New World Order is gonna do all of these, you know, terrible things to me? It's like all of that, you know, you're picking up on those thoughts. So it's like, yeah, it's really just about self-awareness and kind of like, you know, analyzing how you feel day to day. And then from there, you want to try to pinpoint what's causing it. Like, why am I feeling like this? You know, what is it about, you know, these people that's causing it? And, you know, one way that you can kind of help yourself is, you know, you want to create a shield. So, you know, like I was saying with the meditation and the visualization, you know, one of my favorite meditations is actually the Merkabah meditation, where basically you get into a meditative state and then you visualize yourself being in like almost like a pyramid. And it's like a pyramid that's up and a pyramid that's down. So it's like two interlocking pyramids. And what you want to do is like you want to visualize them rotating around you. And from doing this meditation, from doing this visualization, it'll activate your light body. And, you know, it can also become a shield. And so, you know, a lot of times when we start talking about like psychic energy and energy vampires, you know, you do this meditation to build up, you know, your aura. You know, we all got an aura and like, you know, energetic bodies. And, you know, you can build that up through meditation. Like I tell people, like meditation is like working out, but for your mind. And so the stronger that you can build up, you know, these images and these visualizations, you know, it can have a profound effect on your life. Like anytime I go somewhere, I always mentally visualize myself being in like a force field. So it's like I'm not really picking up on people's thoughts. Then, you know, a lot of people like to wear crystals. You know, you got like the tourmaline, the black obsidian, you know, certain stones that will kind of like help deflect and absorb that energy too. But really just mindfulness. Like once you're like, the thing about it is once you're conscious that all of this stuff exists, really a lot of it can kind of be alleviated just based on that, because you know that it's happening now. A lot of people don't know that it's happening, so it affects them more because they're not aware of it. But once you're aware of it, now you can kind of say like, oh damn, like anytime I'm around, anytime I go to this bar or I go to this with these particular people, I come away feeling drained, or I come away, you know, feeling a certain type of way. But until you start thinking about it and really kind of looking at everything that's going on, you won't really know.
Right on. Now let's get into brainwave entrainment, maybe some techniques for folks that are interested in this, and I definitely am myself.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah, it's like, you know, like I was saying earlier about the frequencies, like one thing that a lot of people don't know is like, you know, you got something that's called the main hums, which is basically like based on how the electrical grid is set up, you know, there's a constant like low frequency that's always kind of playing around us. And a lot of time that frequency can kind of have a subtle effect. And it affects different people differently, but you know, it's a lot of things that's kind of just in the atmosphere, and you know, it's always like radioactive and electrical waves around us. And you know, one thing I tell people is like, you know, if you can, that you know, before you go to sleep, you know, it's good to like unplug all of your electronic devices, and this will help you like it'll help you get better sleep. It'll help. It's good for your body. Because you know, I love technology. Like I use technology every day, but at the same time, I do understand that, you know, the overexposure to this has led to, you know, rises in cancer and has led to rise in certain unhealthy things. So, you know, brainwave entrainment, basically your brain, you know, kind of like entrains itself based on the frequencies around it. And so people individually have frequencies, you know, certain stones have frequencies. And one good thing that you can do is you know, if you like go on YouTube, you'll see these a lot, but you'll see like certain meditations, it'll be like, you know, this frequency will help, you know, calm anxiety. This particular frequency will help, you know, induce these particular states. And one real common one is like the 432 hertz frequency. You know, this is good to like activate the heart. You know, you got like the 528 frequency, And really you want to get into what they call the solfeggio frequencies. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that word right, but these are like frequencies that basically correspond to the chakras. They correspond to the different planets. Then you got the Schumann resonance, which is basically the earth itself has a frequency. And basically that frequency over the past hundreds and thousands of years has slowly been rising. And that the rising of that frequency changes the earth. And so basically you have to raise your frequency to be able to enter into the new earth. So brainwave entrainment is super deep, because we don't realize that everything that we kind of like hear, or even the things that we don't hear, is affecting us on a subtle level. And so you kind of have to consciously and train your brain with frequencies that will particularly help you. And like even the CIA came out with proof, basically verifying that astral travel is possible. Manifestation is a real thing. It's like a full document. And one thing that they talk about was like the hemisync, and how certain sounds and frequencies and sound waves can activate and stimulate certain parts of the brain. And working in music, I see this all the time. It's like literally when you engineer music, you have to go in, and what you do is you literally remove the unwanted frequencies. So it's certain frequencies like where you listen to them and you turn it up loud, it can literally like give you a headache. Like it can literally cause physical pain. And so we will like, we go in and we remove the unwanted frequencies, and then we raise up the positive frequencies that, give you those feelings of, bliss, those feelings of, nostalgia. So it's super deep. And like really a lot of things I learned from spirituality, I learned from music. And so I found that it's literally certain frequencies that just correspond with the body in a certain particular way. And once you kind of like understand that, like I said, you can go on YouTube. They got a lot of music. You got like the whole binaural beats thing. And it was interesting too, because I was reading some research where they've been treating Alzheimer's patients with music, and they found that a lot of like Alzheimer's patients that, have memory loss, and, they kind of like have all of the problems that's associated with that when they play music, that person used to really like, that it would literally like light up their brain, and they would start to remember those words. And even if they couldn't remember certain things in their daily life, their subconscious, since it was entrained with that frequency, basically, if you have good moments associated with that song, when you hear that song, it'll actually, stimulate that part of your brain, and you can actually tap into those emotions. So they've been treating Alzheimer's patients with like music and certain, old songs, or like certain, like meditation type frequencies. And they've been saying that, it's been having a positive effect. So yeah, it's a real thing. And it's a very powerful way to change things.
That's incredible, man. Now, speaking of powerful ways to change things, let's talk about visualization and manifestation. Also, techniques I've utilized myself with incredible results using various techniques. I'm always interested in hearing your different modalities. So, what do you use for visualization and manifestation?
Oh yeah, man, there's so many things. But honestly, when I tell people about visualization, you want to not just visualize, you want to fully immerse yourself in the experience. So if you want a new house, yeah, it's cool to visualize the house, but you want to actually engage all of your senses. So what does the doorknob feel like? You know what I'm saying? Like what's the material of the floors? Like, you want to actually like in your mind go up and actually touch the wall. Like, what does it smell like? Like you want to engage all of your senses, because basically our subconscious mind can't tell the difference between what's real and what's imagined. So, the more that you can visualize and you can associate, all of your senses and associate these feelings and emotions with that visualization, you give your brain and you give yourself kind of like a roadmap to understand, like, the energy that it would take to get there. So once you can kind of like understand how it would feel, now you just have to maintain that energetic state. And it's basically like you want to live your life as if you already have it. And that's like one of the main things. It's like, yeah, if you want to manifest more money, you don't do that by thinking about how you don't have money and how, stressful the situation is. You have to kind of like trick your mind into already knowing that you have everything you need and that abundance is your natural state. Lack and limitation is not the natural state. And so, when you visualize these things, it's different levels you can do it on. Like, when I was paralyzed, I would like visualize like golden energy or like light energy, like just flowing into my body. And I would literally like visualize the energy going directly into my spine and like mending together the broken bones. And, just doing that over and over and over again, like I say, it entrains your brain and your subconscious can't really tell the difference. And the thing is, like I say, the electrical charges that you producing, it's like you're basically reprogramming your subconscious by repeatedly doing these things, because it's a few ways to reprogram the subconscious. You got repetition, you got symbols, numbers, colors. All of these things speak to us on multiple levels. So green is a color that's associated with healing. So I would also visualize like green energy coming into my body. And then, I would just like literally visualize, like I would visualize like, beautiful women just massaging my back all day, and they would be like angels, like, and their hands would be like emitting, light energy into my back. And so this is how but you have to make it real in your mind. A lot of people, it's like, it takes them a while to be able to train their imagination up, because, a lot of us, we let the system and we let society kind of destroy our imagination, because they convinced you that your imagination wasn't real and that it didn't have value. When even Einstein himself said that the imagination is greater than knowledge, because you can imagine things that don't yet exist, but knowledge is basically things that already exist that we just kind of read and we base our life on that. But the imagination has no limits. It's no limitations. And most people don't even use it to their advantage. And they don't realize that the imagination is the gateway to the spiritual realm. And, they tell you that it's not real and they de-emphasize it so that you never tap into it. And that's why even in the Bible, it say that you can't enter into the kingdom of heaven unless you're like a child, and what they're really saying is that, a child has a pure heart, a child has an imagination, and they're not yet programmed by the world to basically sacrifice themselves in order to conform. And so, visualization, man, it's a gift. Like, kids can do it easily. But a lot of adults kind of have trouble with doing it, and it's something you got to practice at. But
my favorite aspect of that is the healing aspect. I've used this many times, the visualization of, I've had cysts on the back of my neck that actually I was able to drain with visualization, that these little elves were shoveling it out with a shovel, and within a couple of days of doing that, the cyst was gone, and just different other ailments that I've had and sicknesses and things like that. But it is incredible the powers that this have. And what do you think that there is any limitation to what we can heal our own human bodies with this power?
I mean, I don't believe in, the only limitations that exist are the ones that you accept. If you within yourself believe that you can't do something, I mean, you basically just told the universe that, you don't want that to happen. So the first step is to believe that it can happen. So yeah, I believe that you can use these things to, alleviate or, help with any problem, whether it's health wise, whether it's mental health related, whether it's dealing with just like personal situations in your life. Visualization is like a main aspect to all of this. Like, even when you get into like magic and, different things like that, it's all based on visualization. And like when you deal with like healers and, different things like that, it's like the thing is, somebody that can heal somebody, they have to actually, be so, their intent has to be so pure and so focused that, when they visualize, the healing happening, it actually happens because they don't have any resistance to it. Like the first thing most people do when they do want something, and this kind of go back to manifestation, they say, yo, I want this thing, whether it's money, whether it's, love or whatever it is. But once they say that they want it, then like a day later, they're complaining about what they don't have. And they don't understand that they're sending out a signal that contradicts what they want. So the universe literally doesn't know what to give you anymore, because for one day you say you want this, but then the next day your actions aren't aligning with that thing. But yeah, I don't think it's really any limitations to this, and I think it's definitely something that you want to combine it with other practices to get the full benefit of it. But I just had so much success doing this that, to me, it's really no doubts that it works and that is real.
Excellent, man. Now, I haven't done much research or learned much about the chakra system or chakra activation, and I know that in your talk you'll be discussing heart chakra activation. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Right. Well, yeah, basically every chakra that you have, it corresponds to certain emotions, certain personality traits. And, like, for example, like the lower three chakras, the root chakra, the sacral chakra, the solar plexus chakra, like, the root chakra is basically like, the lowest chakra. And this is like your foundation. And, it's also interesting because every chakra also corresponds to a certain amount of years in your life. So the root chakra is basically from ages 0 to 7. And this kind of sets the foundation of the rest of your life. And this deals with like survival. It's like the base level of who you are. And, a lot of people have root chakra issues based upon, you may have been neglected as a child. You may have been, just had a real rough upbringing. So your foundation is kind of like, shaky based upon that. And then as you continue to go up the chakras, you got the sacral chakra, which is basically dealing with like sexuality. It's dealing with like, it's dealing with sexuality. It starts to kind of like, deal with like how you perceive yourself. Then you go up to the solar plexus, and this is like the will. Like the solar plexus is basically like a sun that's inside of you. And this also corresponds with like, how easily you can manifest. It deals with like confidence. It deals with like, being able to fully be who you're supposed to be. And so once you get to the heart, this is where, the great work actually happens. Because until you activate your heart, you really can only go but so far. And so, the heart chakra, this deals with compassion. It deals with empathy, and it deals with like, love, and, not just loving in a romantic way, but loving in a holistic way to where you now can see yourself in others. And the reason that the world is so, like it's so much hate in the world is because people don't have activated heart chakras. Because if you see somebody else and you recognize this is an aspect of me, well, like, why would you harm that person? But it's like, if you don't have that heart chakra activation, you'll just see another person like, oh, I don't really care. Like, so you'll be willing to, do things to this person, for no reason, in a harmful way. And so, you activate the heart chakra. Really, a lot of times it gets activated by default when you do fall in love, because when you fall in love with somebody, now, you're not just thinking about yourself. And now you have to develop a certain level of compassion, and you start to see this other person as an extension of you. So when we do fall in love, it's really teaching us on a metaphysical level, to be able to connect with things that's, beyond us. And once it's really activated, this is when you actually start, trying to help others. And this is where, all of your, Messiah figures and, the Jesus and the Buddhas of, the ancient world, they had activated heart chakras. And that's how they was able to heal people and enlighten people, because they had transcended their lower self. Like the lower self is basically the lower three chakras. And, a lot of people get up to the third chakra, and the third chakra, the solar plexus, is very powerful. Like you can become rich and famous from tapping into the third chakra. But until you tap into the heart, you know, you'll just be like, you know, these people that like, you know, they have money, but you know, this is where the expression, you know, selling your soul comes from. Cause like you have the material success, but you haven't truly tapped into the heart. So you willing to do anything, you willing to rob, and you know, you willing to do shady things just for personal, you know, gain. And until you know, go beyond that and you start to see yourself and others, you know, you can't really activate the heart. And, you know, it's not until we activate the heart that society can truly evolve, because most people vibrate on those three lower chakras. So at their ceiling, they're only still thinking about like, yo, how can I personally gain from this? How can I manipulate others to get to a higher level? All of that is lower level chakra activity. And once you tap into the heart, then you tap into the throat chakra. And now you get to the point where you can express this. And now your words have energy behind them because people can feel what you're saying. And so, you know, a lot of the powerful speakers, you know, certain people who can just move people emotionally with their words. These are people that have developed themselves and they activated the heart and activated the throat chakra to where they can speak truth. They can speak things that can change people's lives just based on words, because, you know, words are energy. Then, you know, you get to everybody's favorite chakra, which is the third eye. And this is when, you know, you can see beyond the material world. You know, this is when you can close your eyes and you can clearly see things. You can imagine things, you know, a lot easier. And, you know, the reason a lot of people can't go deep into meditation is because, you know, the third eye is dormant. You know, the pineal gland is calcified. And, you know, they have to do a lot of meditation, you know, even just visualizing like a light inside of your head, you know, just like expanding can help activate and stimulate, you know, the pineal gland. Because we're still talking about brain activity when we talk about, you know, the pineal gland. And so, you know, once you get past that, you get to the crown. And this is when you become the enlightened being. And this is when just your presence alone can heal people, you know, because you've literally transcended your own karma. You transcended your own negative emotions, and you have become almost like a god on earth in a way, because, you know, like your energy has kind of like transcended, you know, the lower aspects of yourself. So now, you know, you can become like, you know, you basically become like the Buddha, to where you can speak words and you can help other people wake up. See, once you're enlightened, now really, I mean, the best thing to do is to help other people become enlightened, because, you know, the more people that reach this state of consciousness, we can begin to heal the world. And we don't have to like, you know, go out here and like, you know, protest and riot, even though, I mean, sometimes things like that, you know, may have benefit. But, you know, at the end of the day, the real revolution is elevating your consciousness, because once you elevate your consciousness to a certain level, for one thing, you'll be protected from a lot of things just based upon vibrating at a higher level. It's like certain people won't even be able to get next to you. It's like just because they won't even be able to stand your energy. And if you do be around them, certain people will kind of like reveal themselves, because the lower nature of them will kind of like feel threatened by the higher nature that you're at. And, you know, sometimes like you can become the inspiration for them to change, because they just see you. Like, even me, like when I go out a lot of places, you know, people are just naturally drawn to me. Like I can literally just be like minding my business and people coming up to me like, hey, or just asking me random questions. And it's just because, you know, I'm just at a certain level within myself to where, you know, I just attract people, because, you know, it's kind of like, it's almost like a responsibility I have to kind of like help people evolve ever since I evolved. And it's like, it kind of just naturally happens. Like, and that's the thing too, when you truly align, you know, on the spiritual level, a lot of things would just happen without you even having to try. It's like, you know, like even now, like I remember like, you know, years ago, I used to like really work hard to like, you know, make money or to make things happen. But now it seems like everything is a lot easier. It's like things just kind of just happen, you know, just naturally. And so, you know, but yeah, like the heart chakra is like it's like the essence of spiritual work. And until you activate that, you really kind of can only go but so far.
Right on, man. This has been a wonderful conversation. We're definitely going to have you back on soon. But before you go, you're going to be speaking at Disclosure Fest. Isn't that right?
Yes, sir. Super excited about that,
Yeah,
man.
man. Tell us a little bit about it.
Oh yeah, yeah, it's gonna be in Vegas. It's a super amazing event. I'm gonna be speaking live. It's a 3-day event. It's like a festival. So it's the November 10th, 11th, and 12th. It's gonna be an amazing panel of speakers. I think it's like over 20 speakers that's gonna be there, and these are all the top people, talking about consciousness, extraterrestrials, healing, everything that can help change your life and help people reach a higher level of consciousness and awareness. So it's gonna be a dope event. It's gonna be musical artists performing. I'm gonna actually be performing there as well too.
Oh,
I'm gonna be
awesome.
doing a DJ set. So yeah, it's gonna be an amazing event. The energy is gonna be great. It's gonna be food. It's gonna be like-minded individuals. So definitely, if you can make your way down to Vegas, man, I'm gonna be there. Definitely looking forward to it. And we're gonna try to change the world, those 3 days.
Yes, sir. Looking forward to that 100%. Now, Merkabah, what is the best way that people can find out more about you and reach your content?
Yeah, Merkabah 13 on all social platforms. I'm on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. So that's probably where you can find a lot of my content. And then, just type in Merkabah13.com. That's my personal website. So I got products on there. I got ebooks. I have like different services that I offer. So yeah, like you can find me there. Merkabah 13, all platforms. I try to, really go hard with the content and kind of be omnipresent. So that's probably the best way that you can find me.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Merkabah. We're going to have to definitely do this soon. And until
Oh,
next
yeah.
time, everyone, have an excellent evening. We will be talking again tomorrow. We'll see y'all then.
Peace.